Have we reached the point where we have to go to Al Jazeera for accurate reporting as to whether Donald Trump is in the Epstein files that he's so busy covering up? Now he's gotten caught so crossways with the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch publishing a naughty letter and birthday message that he wrote on behalf of Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's girlfriend and co-collaborator in his pedophilia ring, that Donald Trump's come out and said, release the files, but not all the files, just the Department of Justice's grand jury files, release those transcripts if a judge allows. Now we got to go to Al Jazeera because Donald Trump used to have a chief of staff named Mick Mulvaney. Mick Mulvaney is on an Al Jazeera show and he says, sure, he's in the Epstein files, but it shouldn't be damning. It may just be a photo because if it was really damning, the Biden administration would have released it. That's his new rationale. So Mick Mulvaney, who was the chief of staff in 2019 at the height of the Epstein scandal, right? And he takes the position that A, he's not supposed to be protecting the president from anything or correcting the president related to comments that Trump was making at the time, trying to put the blame on Epstein's death on the Clinton family. So now Donald Trump says, nothing to see here. It's all so boring. The details are boring. It's a hoax. It's a hoax that Donald Trump himself promoted in his own social media post. We'll post it here. Related to trying to pin the blame on the Clinton family. See, when you trade in conspiratorial propaganda, it may come back to bite you in the backside. But the fact that Al Jazeera, frankly, is the one I've got to turn to get, because that's where a former chief of staff has to go run and hide and tell. Is that a game? Run and hide and tell about Donald Trump, that of course there's a picture of him in there somewhere. Oh, we think there's a lot more than that, Mick. And you notice how Donald Trump he just glides over a redefinition of all the files. Release all the files. Then he subcategorizes that, redefines it as the grand jury testimony. Oh, sure. What about the evidence that was presented to the grand jury? What about the search warrant? That's what people want. The search warrant results. Remember when you had a search warrant executed against you in Mar-a-Lago? Remember all the files that were bursting at the seams in the bathroom, in the dining room, on the floor, in your personal closet, in your TV room? Remember all those? That's what we want to see. We want to see when they got into the safe that Michael Wolff, the journalist who came on our show on Legal AF and talked about, he saw the safe, he saw the photos, he was in the apartment. He interviewed Jeffrey Epstein in 2014 for hours upon hours upon hours. That's what we want to see. But I got to go to, again, talk about mainstream media. Look, I know why people come to MeidasTouch and hopefully to Legal AF, right? Because they want the straight story. They don't want to be lied to. They don't want smoke and mirrors or smoke and sunshine up their backside. They want to be told the truth. What do we know so far in this connect the dots, in these data points? All right, and these are all facts. This is not open to debate. You can leave whatever comment you want, but these are established, immutable facts. As we used to say, you can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own fact. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein had a 14, 15-year friendship that broke down over a real estate deal in around 2014. Till then, they were men about town, whatever that means, chasing women and girls, at least in Jeffrey Epstein's case, all around New York as bachelors, sometimes married in Donald Trump's case. They were each other's wingmen. They partied together. Isn't that the phrase the kids use? They partied together. They partied together in New York. They partied together in Miami. There's video that we've shown before. We'll show it here in a B-roll of them at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump very excitingly pointing to something. I'm sure it's not the renovations at Mar-a-Lago. I'm sure it's something related to women. And now the Wall Street Journal, of course, comes out with Rupert Murdoch's paper, comes out after vetting, I'm sure, to protect themselves from a suit. They know what came before. They just saw Stephen Colbert get fired for attacking the settlement Paramount and CBS, his former bosses, soon to be former bosses, made with Donald Trump for over $30 million, selling their soul for between $15 and $30 million. And Colbert lost decades of a career as a result. Mainstream media, independent political commentary is all under attack. I think that's why you, again, come here to MeidasTouch Network and to Legal AF. So we've got the New Wall Street Journal reporting, right? That there's a card, a bawdy, naughty, sexual card with some drawings on it by Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein, solicited by Maxwell herself. And they published it. And then Donald Trump's world went crazy. Donald Trump said, I don't doodle. I don't draw things. I've never drawn anything. Don Jr. said, that's not my father. He doesn't use words like enigma. I love that defense. My father doesn't know that word. And then, of course, the crowdsourcing of counter information then developed, right? Dozens and dozens of sketches made by Donald Trump, doodler-in-chief and sketcher-in-chief, for auction, not for auction, when he's bored, on his presidential briefing book. And they're all lined up, and we'll show them here in social media posts. And then, of course, somebody runs the clip of Donald Trump using the word enigma. Because about it, like, I couldn't, my dad wouldn't have said enigma about Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, Carson's an enigma to me. I didn't say it. Carson's an enigma.
Okay, so that's all going on with the videos and the photos and the relationships and Donald Trump partying and the photos and everything that Michael Wolff is saying about his interview with Jeffrey Epstein and all those close relationships. And now the party gifts are coming out. Then you've got Howard Lutnick, who used to work at Cantor Fitzgerald, where I worked at one time. Howard Lutnick, turns out that he bought his fancy schmancy, that's a legal term, New York brownstone from Jeffrey Epstein, a trust that was owned by Jeffrey Epstein and the guy that used to own the Limited. And he lived right next door to Jeffrey Epstein's pedophilia palace. Well, you got that. So there's a lot of vested interest. A lot of, I don't want to use this phrase. I was going to say skin in the game. Forget it. There's a lot of vested interest and ownership in the Trump administration to bury the Jeffrey Epstein story with Jeffrey Epstein. A story that, as you saw, Donald Trump had no problem trying to promote the story in order to pin it on Hillary Clinton and the Clinton family. Why not? Why not? So you put all of this together, and what do you have? You have Mick Mulvaney, who was the first chief of staff, comes in and says, of course he's in the files. So you can stop looking, everybody. Pam Bondi, be prepared, because I have a feeling you're going to find the client list and you're going to find the photos and the pictures along with it. Now, one of the main reasons that this type of story is so relevant to today, the Colbert filing, the firing, me having to get news from Al Jazeera, brings me to a tool that I have to use to prepare for my Legal AF podcasts and the intersection and all the work I do on Legal AF, the YouTube channel here in the MeidasTouch. And as I prepare for Legal AF, I try to get to the core facts without bias in reporting from mainstream outlets, it's getting difficult at times. But I use a tool I want you to know about, especially if you're like me and you find yourself frustrated with biased mainstream news, or you're tired of sorting through endless sources just to figure out what's actually true. I use Ground News, and frankly, you should too. It's an app and a website that brings together news stories from around the world and then shows you the political bias, factual reliability, and ownership of each source, backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. So instead of just relying on one outlet, You get the full picture. You can literally compare how the left, right, and center are covering the same story, including the MeidasTouch network, all in one place. For example, just as an example, Ground News tracked over 100 outlets covering how Trump made ICE the most heavily funded law enforcement agency in U.S. history, but right-leaning sources barely covered it. That kind of imbalance, Ground News makes it visible. And because it's subscriber funded, Ground News avoids the traps of clickbait and sensationalism. I find Ground News essential nowadays to see through any double standards in the current media experience as I prepare for my hot takes. If you go to ground.news/AF or scan the QR code, we're giving our viewers 40% off Ground News' top tier Vantage plan, which will get you unlimited access to everything I've shown you and more. Ground News is subscriber funded, so they don't rely on ads that could also introduce bias. Subscribing supports our channel and their independent team working to keep the media transparent. Head to ground.news/AF or scan the QR code to get 40% off the Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access for 12 months. Support independent media and get clarity on the news you consume. And I'm so glad that I found them. Because look, we do a lot of content here on the MeidasTouch Network. I do 15 videos a day. I do about 40 videos a week over on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. We got the Legal AF Substack. We got to get this stuff right. And I want that to be the overarching theme in this particular hot take. Getting it right. We scour everything. You know, I've always been a voracious reader. I think that's what makes me the kind of podcaster that I am. You know, I have all the apps. I read the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, HuffPo, the Guardian, Al Jazeera. I mean, we get it from everywhere, but it's getting harder, you know, to sift through it and to spend the time to do it in order to do the real-time type of reporting and commentary that we do here on the MeidasTouch Network on Legal AF. While you're here, hit the free subscribe button for the MeidasTouch Network. Come over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button there. This is the time with Colbert getting fired, Trump calling for the axing of Jimmy Kimmel. Independent media that's not does not have corporate parents or outside investors are needed more than ever. Show your support for them. Hit the subscribe button on the Legal AF YouTube channel as well, and support our podcast, the Legal AF Podcast, wherever you download or listen to podcasts. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.